theater of brands. And the way it happens typically in a movie theater, you would request everybody to please keep their phones on silent. As we begin our journey today, I think the paparazzi is a little busy. No, that was expected. So great, guys. First of all, thank you very much for coming in here. Our friends from the media, our partners building Broadway together, and our team of Broadway out here. We're extremely excited today to unveil what Broadway is. There's been a lot of speculation and talks about what's happening at Broadway, and today we're going to unveil all of that. To do the honors, I would like to call upon the dais our partners who are building this together with us. First, the person would want to call first, that guy does not need any introduction. We've all spoken about him, we've been clicking pictures. The star behind Bahubali, an actor, an investor, and an entrepreneur. Guys, please welcome on stage Rana Daggubati. Thank you, Rana. Next, I would like to call upon stage the co-founder of Broadway. He's been instrumental in building this idea and building it along with the team here. Please welcome on stage Vivek Biani. Next, I would like to call upon stage someone who's been an active investor in the emerging brand space, invested in more than 50 to 60 brands, part of LP for multiple funds, executive director of Salarpuria Group. Please welcome on stage Mr. Apurva Salarpuria. He's been an Apurva has been instrumental in shaping up the D2C industry, invested in brands like Epigamia, Bira, M Caffeine, and a lot more. And next, I would like to call upon stage someone who's been instrumental in shaping up retail in India. Please welcome on stage Mr. Anuj Kejriwal, MD and CEO, Anirok Retail. Anirok being the largest retail advisory firm in the country. So, guys, I would leave the dais now to the four of them to talk about what Broadway is, and I would let Rana begin the show. You can use the mic, actually. Okay, perfect. Okay.
Try to stay more corporate in this world than what I normally do. Okay, we adjust mics to height. Hi guys, thank you for coming. I'm actually thrilled to announce Broadway today. It's really a groundbreaking enterprise at really the cutting edge of media, markets, retail in any form. At Broadway, we're trying to master the art of blending the traditional forms and the digital platforms to deliver a real and a unique immersive experience for the consumers and brands. We're starting our operations in the roots of the vibrant cities of Delhi, Hyderabad, and Mumbai, and where we promise to create content, engage customers, and really build a meaningful relationship across all of them. Broadway is more than a marketplace, it's really a dynamic environment where media and commerce interact. We offer some seamless integrations of content and commerce, supported by a calendar full of exciting events and collaborations. Whether it's live workshops to exclusive product launches, Broadway will really be the hub for everything that's cool and innovative. We're here to empower the creators and brands through the state-of-the-art Broadway studios, where everything that we've learned over our time in telling stories, we're going to support the brands and the creators do that. And at Broadway, there's always something going on. It'll be the most exciting social shopping retail space for this new generation. So thank you for coming here and wish us luck on this new dynamic journey at Broadway. Thank you.
Rana, as you were introducing Broadway, a couple of things which I heard over and over again were commerce and media, online and offline. So will you tell us a little bit about how, Broadway is integrating traditional as well as digital media platforms?
So I'm a storyteller, so I'm going to just take the liberty of starting this as a story. Uh, the invention of shopping malls and all of that happened somewhere in the 1800s, but there's been no reinvention maybe in the last 100 years. Uh, Whether you see the first mall that was ever built in England and you see them today, it's pretty much the exact same thing, the exact same offering. But as consumers, we've changed very dramatically. We want to know what we wear, we want to know what we use, uh, we want to understand the ethic of the brand and how it's built. And very rarely do you find this available. A brand never, or the founder never gets to speak to the consumer directly in this form. And we thought at Broadway that's the best blend that we can do, where in the last 5-6 years there's been a great emergence of D2C brands that have come with very, very interesting storytelling, but it only restricts them to digital platforms, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, in that world. And and there's nothing superior to touch and feel and really understanding where things come from. So I think that's really the blend that we want to bring in at Broadway. So Mr. Vivek, question for you, sir. How does Broadway's marketplace cater to the needs of the 21st century consumer?
Rana, I think the starting point, I think, as we all have been kind of imagining Broadway together, was that 45% of India is in some sense born in this century. And for this India, or even more, I think they're all digital natives. They're born in a world where social media is their platform, where they consume news, entertainment, brand discovery. It's a place where their shopping preferences are being shaped and newer influences are emerging from them. I think a lot of digital first brands, D2C brands have been born in that era, in that environment with consumers. But I think, as you rightly kind of pointed out, that every time, let's say, these brands have to kind of engage with consumers in physical retail forms, if they have to engage, these brands have to tell their stories in a physical environment, what that potentially would look like. So I think this is a generation, whose attention span is 15 seconds, 20 seconds. It is a generation whose needs are micro segmented, and therefore so many brands have been kind of building solutions for this generation. This is a generation in some sense also which doesn't want to consume what the previous generation consumed. So I think Broadway in some sense is giving life to some of these trends, where we want to create a space for a curated set of brands, brands that are really, have a great narrative, great story of why they exist in these consumers' lives. It's a space where this storytelling will take place through all the experiences that you mentioned with respect to events happening, so on and so forth. So we believe that Broadway should be a place where this generation hangs out. It's a space where this generation is participating in many things happening at Broadway. And if you're able to do that, I think this generation needs destinations to be created for them to come out of their homes, spend time, meet people. And I think they blend a lot of these experiences along with shopping. So I think that's how we believe maybe malls and shopping centers should also evolve in some sense. Something for you, Apurva. See, I think there is, in some sense, we're saying that Broadway is this new imagination of how retail should be, and it should not really be only about retail in some sense, right? And there are many elements apart from the act of retailing that will take place to engage consumers. So could you share a little bit about what events, what all will Broadway entail to kind of drive this experience for consumers?
Sure. You spoke a little bit, Vivek, about what the consumer is looking for in the current day and age, and why there should be events in the first place. Let me try and again kind of weave a little bit of a story from the brand kind of side today. And today brands, or the kind of brands that we are engaging with at Broadway, which are new innovative brands, including D2C brands, are engaging with their customers online, which allows them to reach their customer quickly. But as they grow their businesses and they come into the offline world, there is an opportunity for experiences beyond what is possible digitally, as well as they need a connect offline. They are no longer able to speak to the consumer offline if they are just lying on a shelf in a departmental store somewhere. And hence the various events that we are doing kind of cater allow for the brands to engage with customers in different ways. So even the events consequently are of different types, different nature, depending on what fits best into each category and even each brand. It's a very collaborative approach kind of. So it could, for some brands, mean a fashion show where we have a stage within Broadway, as you're probably aware. We have, it could be for somebody a grooming session because there are consultation rooms built in. For another brand, it could be sampling. Uh, it could be a founder telling their story through a founder connect, because a lot of our consumers want to engage with a particular type of brand which has a particular story. There is particular kind of founders which you relate to, and so on and so forth. um, it could be uh, seminars, or in terms of educating people about benefits of a particular ingredient, particular brand, etc. So honestly, there is an entire machinery which we are building, an entire IP called Broadway Studios, which will cater to brands, enable them to do this. But I think it's a huge array of events that we are able to kind of put together.
It's interesting what you say, Apurva, and you spoke about a lot about content. And I'm going to probably push this to Rana to answer this. That really, how is Broadway looking to support content creators and brands?
So I think Apurva just mentioned Broadway Studios towards the end of what he was saying. So the real idea is to give, over time, extreme cutting edge experiences for brands and creators. What we have a content studio inside of Broadway that helps you with, whether it's extreme quality graphics, extreme editing, whether it's being able to communicate that right. You also have a test audience that you can keep bringing it out to. And it's very difficult sometimes to set the story and the vision to reach that to the final customer. And at Broadway, it's really like that ecosystem of things where there's a brand, there's a consumer, there's an influencer, and maybe an investor in some form, and all of them make this one little economy for themselves. So that's really the idea. And everything that we've learned over the past is getting disrupted in the way content is being created, and making sure whether it's AI that's being able to support these creators, whether it's technology or infrastructure that's needed, all of that will be at Broadway. So the next one, let's go. Vivek, you were speaking about plug and play on brands a little while ago. So what is the convenience and what is this plug and play model at Broadway?
Yep. So I think we had mentioned that at the end of the day, Broadway will have a curated set of brands, and that curation really goes from what we've been talking about, that they need to have a very strong narrative storytelling aspect about themselves. What we also realize is that a lot of these brands are in some sense born digitally, so what Broadway will do is really create all the capability that is needed to enable these brands to engage with consumers in physical retail experiences. Now that could potentially mean that how easy can we make it for the brand to participate in the physical retail channel, right from saying that the brand can pretty much just come with their merchandise and everything else with respect to designing the entire space, building the brand experience, doing all the capital expenditure, getting the right kind of manpower deployed, training them, and all the kind of processes that goes along with running a retail kind of store is what Broadway provides to this brand. So I think that's the way in which we want to kind of build this model, where in some sense, how co-working spaces disrupted office environment, where the likes of WeWorks, etc., came in and make it extremely easy for young companies to kind of participate in premium quality office spaces. Broadway aims to do that to some extent for retail. That how can we really make it extremely easy for brands to come participate in the physical retail channel, get them access to these consumers, get them to do all the experiences, events, build all the content, so on and so forth. So I think Broadway will have that execution capability available, where brands can come and participate and not only reach consumers, not only get an array of creators, influencers who they can partner with, create all the content that is needed, and acquire a new set of consumers from here.
Let me quickly shift gears for a moment. And Anuj, as the top retail advisory in the country, you have both a broad as well as a deep view of what's happening in the retail landscape in the country. Where does Broadway fit into this from that lens?
I'm going to continue actually a little bit of Rana's story where he said that retail in the world started in the 1800s, and really for about hundreds of years we didn't see any change in it. Retail really is nothing but let's say it's consumption to some pattern. Now, you saw decades of radio advertisements happening. Then you had television that came in. Then print came in. Then television came in, and then you suddenly had a short time where you saw everything from BBM to Facebook to Instagram to all this social media that has come on board. Also, I think the Indian consumer over the last 10 years or the last 20 years has suddenly become very well traveled. And I think the audience that we're looking at now in some way has skipped generations and moved extremely, extremely fast. I think what Broadway, from that perspective, brings to the table is this offline, online, the digital world coming into the physical world. And that's really what we're kind of taking out there and showcasing. On the retail side, we're talking about bringing all these online brands offline. And, I was picking up this data from somewhere earlier today. You have about 100 so like Vivek said, we have at any point of time, let's say 120 to 180 brands in our stores anywhere in the country. But you have 150 brands a month that are getting launched. So that's about 1,800 a year that we're talking about. And these could be at different scales. You have about 150 brands today who've done extremely well and probably crossed over 100 crore turnover just on online sales. Probably 300 brands at 50 crore plus turnovers. And this market is really not matured. It's really half a decade old in terms of the market. So I think the runway for this is really long and extremely large, as Broadway continues to expand. Really on the real estate side, again, like we said, malls have really not changed. They've become larger. They're giving a larger offering, but from being pure shopping destinations, they're now moving towards being more places of social infrastructure, where people want to come and meet, greet, eat, watch a movie. They don't necessarily come to shop anymore. It's a place where they want to gather. I think what we're trying to create at Broadway and where Broadway exactly fits in well is that it's somewhere where you can come and meet your friends. You can come and see those influencers that you've always been just seeing digitally. It's somewhere where you can come and eat, you can try, you can go to consultation rooms. So, I mean, there are various parts of Broadway and various contents of Broadway that you can come and experience at that store. And I think that piece will really start to differentiate when really retail asset owners start to look at this. So from that perspective, this is extremely, extremely distinct in my mind. And I think it's got a great way forward from here on.
Just taking off from Manoj, Apurva, this question's for you. What do brands have at Broadway beyond showcase and studio offerings?
Again, I think as we've kind of slowly, the word around Broadway has kind of percolated in the ecosystem, there has been, honestly, just tremendous amount of interest and intrigue. We've had, consumer funds reach out to us in terms of trying to figure out how they can engage with us. We've had, of course, we've been engaging with a whole plethora of brands, influencers, communities around influencers. So there is, for one, there is a program which we are creating, which is in the works, which is a Broadway X, funds, loosely to kind of put the word, where we are, funds are trying to see how do they, look at various experiments in the offline world, how are various products performing at early stages, can Broadway be a platform for that? Can they also possibly have, some kind of their own visibility at these stores as they kind of look at, raising funds over the year. Similarly, for very young brands, a terminology which we very commonly use in the startup ecosystem is PMF, or product market fit. So is there an opportunity for, in a small way, for some of these brands to come in either directly through an accelerator kind of a program? So we are creating, what we are loosely kind of at this point calling a Broadway accelerator, brand accelerator program. And so to test out early product market fit, to create visibility, along with influencers and all of that. So there are various opportunities, and we are creating these two programs which are in the works, and we'll announce them in more detail as we go along. But a lot of opportunities coming as part of these two programs.
Excited with the opportunities. Rana, this question, you're probably the best guy to answer this. How do celebrity visits and engagements influence this?
One, I think globally we've seen this much larger than in India, where there's been celebrities that have been part of building great brands that have gone out to becoming over $1 billion type of companies. And it's a very nascent and an early stage in India. But this at Broadway is probably the best place for someone to start creating that engagement, understanding brand to the closest. If you've seen the early rounds of success and failure, it's been the ones that there was a celeb license, but there was never somebody who understood brand well enough. So I think Broadway will somehow answer that question. At Think9, we have a bunch of celebrate brands that we're building, whether it's Leela, Ranveer, myself. And a lot more of array outside. So I think Broadway will be that first theater, or the first truly Broadway for these brands and celebs.
Okay. Yeah, I'm here. So thank you guys for sharing light on Broadway. What we're going to do next is that we're going to ask Vivek if you can just run us through a little bit about Broadway presentation in detail, right? And just a little more nuances on it.
Okay. So I don't think so. There's a presentation, right? I think I'll talk about it. Okay. See, I think the hypothesis for Broadway was really, I think, and both Rana and Anuj spoke about it, that we do feel that retail spaces or consumption centers needed a newer thinking for the generation of today and tomorrow. And this generation is already on their journey to consuming a lot of these new age brands. So I think Broadway, in that sense, is really creating that market access physical channel for all of these products and brands. From a consumer lens, I think it's really about creating a space where I can discover these new brands, discover these new products. I can engage, touch, feel, try, sample. I can participate in events. I think we wish to have 10 to 20 events a day in Broadway. I think the way Broadway is designed is also very amiable for this, right? So I think there is a main stage, which kind of can host large events. There are smaller spaces like a salon where every product can be touch, feel, try, sampled before consuming it or buying it. There are consultation rooms where some of the health and wellness brands can use to kind of do dermatologist consults, trichologist consults, so on and so forth. So I think it's really for us to create a space where consumers can spend time in, space where brands can do their storytelling. They can enable consumers to touch, feel, try, sample, participate in events, and commerce will happen by virtue of this. So we do feel that excitement in physical retail environments is what we want to bring alive with Broadway again. And enable them to kind of sometimes you may sometimes go and see that, oh, there is a new kind of modern Ayurveda brand that I didn't know about that is solving something for me. You may find in Broadway that there is an amazing sneaker drop that is happening, which I want to be part of. So I think a lot of these experiences were happening digitally. I think Broadway becomes a place which is upfront and central to kind of enable some of this. We do feel we are building an ecosystem where brands and the new age creators are equally important in this journey. So I think for brands, I think we answer to some extent that how easy it is for them to participate here. We want to make it just a simple way in which they come in, and the ecosystem of Broadway opens up for them. Whether it's the Broadway studio content ecosystem, whether it's the Broadway creator program that we want to build, whether I think Apurva mentioned that there were elements of how brand X Broadway X, maybe a institutional investor would view Broadway, so on and so forth. And I think it's really this new age ecosystem of brand consumers, creators, investors, which we want to get it to come alive in Broadway. So yeah, I think that's what we wish to do.
Great, thank you so much. I'll now open the floor for questions from the media. We can begin with the Q&A. Were we too boring, or yeah, we have a question. That's mine.
Yeah, hi. How large are these stores, and where do you plan to open them in Hyderabad and Bombay? Yeah, thank you.
Sure. So I think any Broadway store would be about anywhere between about 25 to 45,000 square feet in size. We do categories across beauty, personal care, health and wellness, fashion, accessories, footwear, so on and so forth, as well as all the experiential elements of the stage. There is F&B that is sprinkled across the store, content studio, etc. I think the first store opens in Delhi in August, followed by Hyderabad, and then followed by Mumbai. That's the plan for this financial year, at least as of now, which is these 3 stores that will come alive. In
Locations.
so I think we have a mix of both. So the Delhi store is coming up in Ambience Mall, Vasant Kunj. Hyderabad is a standalone high street store, and so is Mumbai. Yeah.
All right, thank you. The next question, please. Yes, please go ahead.
Hello, this is Vinay. My question for Rana sir. When you invest your money to any brand or any product, so how you see your profit? You target any particular age group or anything?
So my every thesis of anything that I do starts with a story, and if there is a whether it's a product, brand, technology, film, doesn't matter what it is, if it's creating an impact in some manner or the other. uh, I'm a long term person. I'm 40 years old almost now, but I run 2 companies that are over 60 years old. So I just believe in the long term very, very strongly. And I think anything that creates an impact and change in the way people behave or consume, that's something that I'm always part of. And I think Broadway was one of the finest that I could be.
Somehow you trying to connect to film industry and business industry.
I think as a human race, stories is what we tell to each other, and that's why we're able to do so many great things. Film is one medium of it, brand is another medium of it, and I just like to be in as many mediums as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi Vivek. Will you be creating new brands or will you be launching brands which are already present in the market? And if you do that, how will you choose the brands that you wish to bring in the physical format? There are a flurry of D2C brands today.
See, I think the objective of Broadway is fundamentally to give wings to all the brands, largely D2C brands or brands that have a unique story and a proposition for them. So it's really not an objective that at least Broadway has for creating new brands. So we want to at any given point in time, I think, work with anywhere between 150 to 180 brands in one store. So I think that's the journey for us. And we strongly believe in partnering all the brand founders, who are kind of building these amazing brands, building these amazing stories, and how does Broadway become part of their lives to help them acquire new consumers, help them engage with new consumers, so on and so forth. I think we do have a way and a framework in which we look at which brand should participate within Broadway, so that it could be a mutually win-win beneficial relationship for us. I think the starting point of it is what Rana just said, that is there a strong story, strong proposition, why consumers love them, and is there something unique aspects about them that they should be part of consumers' life. So I think that's the starting point for us in terms of which brand should come into Broadway. I think obviously we follow that up with a bunch of other kind of filters that we look at in terms of, is there some element of brand love? What is their engagement with the content that they produce, so on and so forth, so that everything that happens in Broadway is unique, interesting, engaging for the consumers who participate there. So there is a framework that we put in place for which brands come in.
Hi, Shilpa here from CNBC. Firstly, I'd like to apologize if my question sounds repetitive because I missed the beginning part of
I saw you walking in late.
Yeah, I'm so sorry. I wish I could entirely blame that on the rains. But, I wanted to understand the positioning, from what I can understand, is like you're looking to position this as at a very premium end. Am I right? Am I wrong? And also with bringing on board, are we looking at the entire spectrum from, entry level brands, premium brands, luxury brands, sort of, on that spectrum? What are you looking at? If you could just run me through that and the positioning of Broadway in general, what is it going to be like?
Sure. So, see, I think we do believe that at the end of the day, Broadway is a place where we want to bring in brands that tell amazing stories. And we do feel that, when a brand is able to command a particular kind of price point, it comes with respect to their story, their proposition, the value addition that the brand is doing in the consumer's life. So I think I'll tell you what we don't want to do. We don't want to do brands that their core reason to be part of consumer's life is price, right? And there is an entire price-oriented equation why a particular brand is purchased by a consumer. So we don't want those kinds of brands. I think outside of that, we really look at what the brand story, engagement is there with the consumers, and we are happy to bring in. But by nature of it, we do feel that a lot of the D2C-led digital-first brands who have strong storytelling and narratives about themselves are aspirational brands in nature. So Broadway will be positioned in that sense. I wouldn't say it's luxury or premium per se, but it's really more about the storytelling aspects of it.
And even with respect to, I mean, following up on her question, where in the sort of growth journey of the brands, I mean, are you looking at brands that are very new, that have sort of established a market already, or are already very successful brands, you know, in their sort of business journey, where are these brands at? And you just mentioned about 100 and 150 brands per store. Is that going to be a standard number across across each store, and how will you be going about with that number?
So, yeah, about 100. So I think depends on the store size in terms of number of brands. So I think the Delhi store is going to have about 120 or 130 odd brands. I think Hyderabad, which is a much larger footprint, will have maybe 200 odd brands at any given point in time. So I think that's the number of brands that will be there. What was your first question?
These brands that you're onboarding, you know, she
Majority,
asked about the criteria. I'm asking about the business journey. Like, where are they? Are they new brands? Are they with a certain established market? Or are they like very well-known brands?
You know, and at the risk of being a little repetitive, so I think obviously, you know, what Broadway wants to be is a democratic platform. So I think we are creating programs for brands at a different maturity curve to be part of Broadway. So if we do feel that there is an extremely young brand, but has an amazing product, amazing story, which we would love to take it to consumers, or we feel that consumers would love their proposition, we have created a way in which those brands can participate in Broadway. Obviously, I think most of the brands are a little more mature in nature, you know, where they are, they already have some amount of customer love, they already have a little more, you know, definition in terms of their journey with respect to product market fit, so on and so forth. But I do feel that, you know, there are brands at, you know, different maturity curves that will participate in Broadway. There are also brands that maybe are very large digitally, but Broadway becomes really the first point of call in terms of how they really look at a physical retail channel for themselves. So you will see, you know, something for all of them. And I think Apurva alluded to something which is saying that over time, right, can Broadway also be a platform that can help brands accelerate their growth curves? So I think those are things that I think will be part of the journey as we kind of build this platform.
All right, thanks.
And you could also look at some of the brands that are coming on board on Broadway on the wall besides you. All right, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I would request all our friends from the media to collect a small goodie bag that we've created from you. These are products curated specifically from our brands participating at Broadway. And please do catch up with us on lunch.
Sir, this side, sir. Sir, this side, sir. Ah, sir, this side. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, sir.